Florida's MAGA governor, Ron DeSantis, defying a judge on these safety measure fights. COVID and Delta surging in Florida. The death toll during the past 8 months has now surpassed the total for all of 2020. It's one more measure of how badly it's going there. DeSantis, though, is fighting masks, he's fighting safety measures, and now he is trying to punish those who do follow CDC advised measures, including in local school boards and areas where that's what families want. The Florida Department of Education is now defying a judge, and it will withhold payments from 2 school districts that did make masks a rule. Schools continuing to keep those mandates. Deputies have had to break up a fight between parents over the rule in one Florida county. DeSantis has doubled down on his claims, even as this death rate climbs.
If you're trying to restrict people, impose mandates, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida.
When things go bad, you need a lawyer, and that's why Florida's fights over COVID have increasingly turned to the courts, which is a kind of a statement of breakdown. I'm joined by NYU law professor Melissa Murray. Professor, no offense, no shade. We often go to doctors first in COVID segments. But this one has enough legal grist that we wanted your views, because the governor is winding up in court, sometimes losing, as he did over one of the mandate issues, and sometimes here on open questions about really where does the pay power go. What do you see, A, as a legal matter of where these things are headed, and if you would, what lawyers call the prudential matter? What is your view of whether these things should really have to be litigated during an emergency in the first place, or is that a function of him being basically kind of a really strict hypocrite looking for fights?
Well, it's really clear, both from the judge's ruling last Friday and constitutional law more generally, that while parents have the right to raise their children in the manner of their choosing, that right isn't absolute. So we have in this country laws requiring compulsory schooling and compulsory vaccination. Those are compelling interests that override a parent's right to make decisions about the child, that require the child to go to school or to be vaccinated for certain things. And as the judge noted on Friday, in certain circumstances, like perhaps a public health crisis of the kind we are facing, those parental rights may also be overridden by the demands for public health, including vaccinations or mask mandates in these cases.
Yeah, I mean, not to be too simplistic, but when in doubt, clarify. Schools also have the ability to make sure everyone is fully clothed. And if they're at swim practice, it might be slightly different. But if a parent says, well, I want my kid to be in the swimsuit all day because they grew up on the beach and that's our personal style and values, like, you're free to do that out of school, but the school is still going to have some uniform codes. And right now, I'm not making light of this. There's a lot of doctors and CDC guidance that says, particularly in hard-hit areas, following COVID safety rules is more important than being fully clothed.
Well, surely the governor knows that. Lots of schools have dress codes. I went to school in Florida. I had a dress code, and it was pretty draconian despite what my parents or I wanted. The governor knows this. He knows that these rights are not absolute. So to say that he's banning mask mandates for the purpose of preserving parental authority to make decisions for their children, everyone knows, certainly his lawyers know, that that's perhaps a bit broad. Parental rights don't necessarily go so far as to require schools to make allowances for things that they think are due and are necessary for the educational mission, including demands for public health. So what we see here now, and the governor's open defiance of that court order from Friday, I think we're gearing up for even more legal fights. There will surely be a motion to hold the governor and the Secretary of Education in contempt of court for failing to abide by that lower court ruling, and there will obviously be appeals going forward.
Yeah, and I will put up on the screen really quick before we go, you did mention what the people want. That's also relevant to this. Legally, of course, the rules won't be up for popular vote, but for all the talk about Florida failing under DeSantis, this is where Floridians are. It's not even close. 60 to 36 in favor of masks, particularly as it surges. So, again, no shade to everyone living in Florida, but some shade, according to the courts and experts, for Florida's governor. Our Floridian lawyer, Melissa Murray, thank you as always.
Thanks for having me.